Hello everybody, this is the iFan channel here. Over here is a Windows RT laptop, specifically the Surface RT. And today I'm actually going to use Windows RT to see whether or not Windows RT is still usable in 2024 or is it unusable. And then in the second part of the video, I'm going to talk about the rise and fall of Windows RT. So as a preamble, the Surface RT, Windows RT, and Windows 8 are all released on the 26th of October in 2012. And Windows RT is actually an ARM-based operating system that lacks support for many x86 and x64 applications. And ironically, if you were to see the Windows Store, it actually had less apps than the App Store, but nowadays the Windows Store does not work. Let me show you guys. As you can see, yep, we aren't able to connect to the store. Kind of ironic, as this is kind of the only place you can actually download any apps. Okay, I just re-entered the home screen over here. It did take some time because if you were to press this start button, it would just redirect back to the App Store. I don't know why. I think this is an RT quirk. But as you can see, Windows Store is no longer available, so you cannot really install any apps anymore. You definitely cannot install apps from like the Internet Explorer or anything because x86 and x64 applications are not optimized to work on Windows RT. And therefore would actually fail. So if you want to install Chrome, you can't do it. Steam, can't do it. Photoshop, can't do it. In fact, the only browser you could actually run is Internet Explorer, yes. This is actually IE11. I'll show you guys. IE11 over there. And the funny thing is, this is actually a stripped down version of Windows 8 and 8.1. Well, technically, this is actually RT 8.1, as you can see with the start button. But let me tell you guys about the specs, because this tablet actually has a Tegra 3, which is actually an NVIDIA SoC, which is actually an ARM processor. It is actually a quad-core 1.3 gigahertz ARM Cortex A9, and there is actually 2 gigs of RAM, and you could actually get the base storage of 32 gigs or a 64 gig storage. And the 32 gig storage configuration actually cost $500 when it was first released 12 years ago. Remember, this was at a time when the iPad had around 16 gigs of storage. And ironically, many like Windows 8 computers actually have at least 128 gigs of storage. But now moving on to the camera, because there are actually 2 cameras, a front camera and a back camera over here. I do believe both are 1 megapixels, and the rear camera could actually take like 1080p video, whilst the selfie camera could actually take 720p. So let me show you guys a camera sample. Okay guys, this is actually a video sample of the Surface RT. Yes. Taking pictures and creating videos on a tablet is kind of weird, especially today. Okay guys, over here is a selfie camera. I'm not sure how decent this is, but it is quite potato in quality. Now moving on to the Wi-Fi. This tablet supports ABGN Wi-Fi as well as Bluetooth 4.0, and it actually comes with a proprietary charger. Let me show you guys what the charger looks like. Over here is a charger. It is actually a magnetic charger. Unfortunately, this is not cross-compatible with many of the modern day Surfaces. So the Surface 3 and up use a different magnetic charger. But over here is where you're going to charge the Surface. So just plug in like this. Sorry. But you do get the gist, yes. And also, it not only has a magnetic charger, it also has a USB-A port, so you could actually connect some peripherals and stuff. And I do believe, I'm not sure what this is, but if you were to go here, there's actually a headphone jack as well as the volume buttons. So you could actually adjust the volume, and over here is actually the power button. Why everything not working? And over here is actually the kickstand. Well, this is actually an advantage of the Surface compared to the iPads, because the iPads you do have to buy a case, and over here is the micro SD card slots for you to include more storage in case if this is not enough. Ironically, despite having all of those features, you don't have a type cover or touch cover included. These actually come in an additional fee. So over here I actually do have the Magic Keyboard to actually use for the Surface. And let me tell you guys how much the touch cover actually cost. It costs about $120 at the time of release, and the type cover, which is more of an authentic keyboard with actual keyboard logistics, actually would cost $130. So why not, let's move from the technical specifications and into the usage. Ironically, the Surface actually crashed. I did have to restart. And over here is what the boot screen looks like. So very, very similar to that of the Windows 8 and even Windows 10. And why not, I'm just going to wait for the loading. As you can see, this is the logon screen. Windows RT, quite rudimentary, kind of similar to Windows 8. And it would actually redirect to the start screen. Yes. Now to actually go to the home screen, I do believe you had to go to search and then search something in the home screen, like say the control panel. And that would actually help redirect to the home screen over here. Which is kind of odd. I have not even seen this even in Windows 8. And there's actually no direct icon to the home screen. Yes. None. That's kind of unfortunate. But in reality, I do believe this is quite enough for a tablet. With this, the Metro UI, as the home screen is not really necessary. The home screen really only supports some of the first-party Windows apps, as well as the Internet Explorer and Office. So be able to see the home screen, it is kind of a barren wasteland. It actually includes some Office apps and stuff. This is actually Word. And over here is Internet Explorer. As you can see, not much content to do on the home screen. But here's actually a blank document. I'll show you guys what this version of Office actually is. Okay guys, I finally found a version. It is actually Office 2013, which is actually an outdated version of Office as of recording this video. So this Office would not actually receive any more support officially, but it could still work just like Office 2000 and Office 4.3 if you're into that type of Office. I'm very sorry for all the lag and stuff. It's not my fault. But why not, let's go back to the Metro UI to actually show you guys. So let's test some apps to see whether or not they work or not. So I actually do have the weather app. Let's try out that to see whether or not it would show the weather for Cambridge. I can't even believe how there's so much lag even compared to the iPad 4. I actually do have an iPad 4, and when I tested it out just several days ago, there was not this much lag. Even though that was running iOS 10. Yes. iOS 10 was released when the iPad 4 was like 4 years old. And this is like running Windows RT 8.1. And yes, the weather actually worked. But let me see if it actually works or not. This is Bing weather over here, so I am going to search for Boston, Mass. Your location cannot be detected. Let's say weather does not work anymore. Let's search for news. So over here is the news. Let's try to search for something, and wow, some more recent headlines such as the McDonald's E. coli outbreak, and luckily you can still read news and stuff. Let's see what this is all about here. Now it will take a while But after a few seconds, there is actually no response. I'm just going to move on. And ironically, the main screen is actually totally blank over here. It says downloading articles, but I'm not really sure how long it would actually download for. And over here is the Windows Store. Now the Windows Store does not work just like I showed you guys. We weren't able to connect to the store, so if you want to download anything, good luck. If you have a brand new setup, a factory reset, then this is all you have. You can't really install anything or do anything. This is essentially just a brick in modern standards, and let's check the sports app to see what it does. Now that does not work as well, so it's kind of ironic. And let me show you guys the Maps app. Yeah, I know, it's terrible. Like, luckily GPS does still work. It still redirects to like New England, but it is really blurry and unintuitive. And let's change the map style to Arial. And even there, it's like terrible, yeah. I mean, the map sort of works, yeah, like maybe 10%, but this is kind of like you being on an airplane where there's like no internet, as the server is quite dead. And if you were to go to my location, it'll show nothing, and directions. Let's see if it would actually route me to Boston. Now Maps does not really work. It basically works only about 10%, and over here is the reading list, which is quite a rudimentary app. Now you do have to use Internet Explorer, but in reality, Internet Explorer is kind of terrible today, and it's kind of limited over here. But you could still run like modern websites, yeah, sort of. Especially the Microsoft website, which is still being maintained somehow. But if you were to go on google.com, this is what will show up. Sorry if it does take long to load. This is how Windows RT is like today. And after about 1 second, it finally loads. And over here is kind of an antiquated site, so search for Apple, why not? Just take a look at the images. Yes, this is definitely the fallback UI over here. Oh, you have to upgrade your browser. But at least it sort of works, yes, sort of. But definitely nowhere as intuitive as, say, the modern website on a modern phone. But let's see how it's done. You do actually have to insert this into the reading list like this. I do believe so. This is actually the favorites. So let me show you guys later. So from what I found on YouTube, you actually click share, and then that would actually add to the reading list. Yes. I'm sorry if it's not as intuitive, because the Microsoft page is suddenly gone, so you cannot really do anything about it. But why not? Let's go back and check another app, Finance. Now this is kind of a neat addition for Windows RT, is multitasking on a Metro UI, just like Windows 8. Bing Finance. Yes. Unfortunately, there's no results found. The news totally failed to load, and if you want to see any of the stocks, no results found. I think Finance is kind of dead already, yeah, to be honest. But you could actually see some of the rates and stuff, which also fail. Tools, yes. Let's check the mortgage calculator. Really apologize for the discrepancies. Actually mistaken the loan amount for the house price and the loan fee for the down payments. So I'd switch again, and the loan fee is now 1% of the loan amount. And with the 6% annual interest rate for 30 years, you'd get this monthly payment, which is kind of astronomical given the state of interest rates. And you could also calculate auto payments as well as currency, yes, but that's kind of gone, unfortunately, because it does require internet and the server is kind of down. I do believe the server has been down like since last year when Windows 8.1 had dropped support. So why not? I'm going to return and go to food and drinks to see whether or not that works or not, or if it's useless, just like some of the other apps. Let's see if it could search like some meal or something. Unfortunately, this does not show anything, so this app is essentially dead. Health and fitness. Let's see if that works. You do have a diet tracker here, which I do believe it sort of works, but let me see. So let's search for cereal. Unfortunately, it does seem you have to manually input everything. I'll wait for it to load. Unfortunately, it does not seem to work after all, so I'm just gonna give up and say this app is kind of a fail. The exercise tracker does not really require any internet. Exercise, the same thing. But I would essentially give this app a failing score, unfortunately, because it does not seem to work like normal. The help plus tips. Let's see what it is all about. Essentially just some bluff cam like Tor Windows XP. Because this is a totally revamped UI from Windows 7. And let's see whether or not SkyDrive works or not. Unfortunately, I don't really have any files. So you do need to sign in. So I'm going to sign in to my other account. Unfortunately, SkyDrive would actually redirect you to the PC settings, which it would actually prompt you to install Windows Update. But I'm not sure whether it would actually install or not, or if there's nothing, because this does not support Windows 10. It only supports up to Windows RT 8.1, which actually bought Outlook and UI improvements. Yes, it actually brought these two. And the UI improvement actually included the Start button, which has been revived from Windows 7. It seems to do nothing, so I'm just going to say it's a fail. Unfortunately, it seems as if Skype has went into a problem. It is not working, so I'm just going to say this is a fail. And why not? I'm just going to return to my Windows RT account. What the hell is up with these like crashes and stuff? Yeah. Okay, it finally worked now. I'm just going to return to the PC, which does require all of the scrolling, yeah. Actually, I'm just going to do the more easy way by searching for control panel. Oh, shit. I'll be back in a few seconds. Oh, it actually works now. Finally. I'm just going to wait for the control panel to load up, and I'm going to show you guys the desktop, because I do believe one of the only features which actually work on this machine is actually the internet. I'm not going to use the keyboard here. Yes, the trusty old magic keyboard. And actually type in some sites. Now, of course, it would actually load an older version. Definitely the fallback edition. Let me be patient for a bit. And here it is, yes. And now let's load Amazon.com. to see if I could really buy anything. Because that site did work with Windows XP on Firefox 52.9 ESR, but not sure if it will actually work here or not. Let's see whether or not I should be optimistic. And yes, it does work, yes. Quite intuitive. And let's search for a laptop. And finally, after a few seconds, over here are some of the results. I'm actually going to buy the Acer Aspire 3 because it's quite affordable. And as you know, it does take a woeful amount of time, but I'm just going to include the loading here to show you guys how slow this actually is, even with the limited selection of apps. So why not, I'm just going to give up entirely and search for reddit.com and show you guys what the site is like. Unfortunately, could not get YouTube to work, so I cannot really watch any videos, but I could actually port some videos from my Windows or Mac machine to this to actually show you guys later. It seems like reddit.com does take a while to load, unfortunately. But let me tell you guys about the Office Suite. Unfortunately, the desktop version of Office is not actually tablet optimized, so therefore you would actually want a keyboard and mouse to actually use it. So if you only have a touchscreen, then it's definitely for sure unintuitive. And the version of Windows 10 this could actually technically upgrade to is build 15035, which is actually an unofficial build. It is actually being leaked by some person on the internet, and it is also on Beta Wiki, but unfortunately that is an old build of Windows 10, so it would only support the pre-Chromium version of Edge, which means not the very latest version of Edge, which definitely meant you could not really load many modern sites. So unfortunately it does take a minute. And finally, over here is reddit.com. I did have to close the Internet Explorer browser. This is the only browser that actually supports this operating system. And over here is just a bunch of gibberish, yes. A bunch of gibberish. You cannot really do much on this Reddit. It is essentially unintuitive. And let me show you guys proof that YouTube does not really work at all. And over here's YouTube. Let me show you guys. So if you just went to the regular YouTube, this is what happens. Yes, nothing would load up. And another quirk of Windows RT is due to the fact the online services have been shut down like last year. Therefore, live towers are kind of gone as well. You cannot really see any live towers. And when Windows 8 was released, I really load live tiles. In fact, I actually used Windows 8 and would actually disable live tiles just because it made Windows kind of quote-unquote unnatural to me, because I always like the more stock format. Okay guys, the very last thing I'm going to do in this video is show you guys the email client, games, photos, videos, calendar, as well as music to see whether or not these work or not. So here I am in the mail clients, Outlook Mail, and unfortunately it does not seem like it actually works. So why not, I'm just going to email to myself to confirm it works or not. Let's see. Unfortunately, it does not seem like my email is being sent. there's actually a problem sending messages from this account. So in conclusion, the Mails app is definitely broken, even worse than the original iPhone, because I do assume the original iPhone could still send mail like even 10 years after its release, but I'm not sure if Mail actually works now. But even the original iPhone is still more useful than this Windows RT machine, like when it was 10 years old. So why not? I'm going to go to the Musics app. Over here is Xbox Music. Unfortunately, Windows Media Player is not included in this, which is kind of a bit bad. But the radio unfortunately does not seem to work. And Explore, nothing really works here. It does say update available, but really nothing works. So I'm just going to go to the desktop. Which does require some maneuvering. And actually play some music. Which actually does work. Now let's check out the games. I do believe this has actually been offline. As you can see, there seems to be nothing here. If you were to find games, then there's nothing. You cannot really install any games. You could not do anything. I mean, you sort of, yes. But I'm not sure how recent these are. But let's see. Oh, they're from like 2015. Ironically. And yes, the store is offline, as we all know. And why not? Let's check the Photos app to see whether or not it's any good. Which is definitely local for sure. This is actually the camera, and over here the photos and stuff. So it's all just rudimentary, the camera roll. Here's some videos. So that does work. Okay guys, this is actually a video sample of the Surface RT. Yes, that does work. And it does have live tiles, which I do load, so of course I'm actually going to turn it off. And over here it is. And of course, last but not least is the calendar app. Let's see whether or not it works. And set this to PC. And over here's the calendar. Fortunately it does work, but you cannot really do much on a calendar. You could scroll to the next day and maybe the work week. Next week, yeah. And next month. But that's about it. You could also change the dates as well, because this is kind of an offline feature. So let me scroll all the way to like, let's say 1900. Now, due to the fact this is of course an offline feature, therefore it's actually going to work. So in reality, like about 90% of online services have shut down, except for like Internet Explorer and maybe some minor services like say the news app. But in reality, only the offline services could actually work, like say the camera and stuff, music, videos, things which do not require online. So of course here's 1900, and I do believe the Surface RT and Windows RT in general is an example of planned obsolescence. Because really nothing works after 12 years. Yes, you do have to install an obscure build of Windows 10 15.0.35 to even get this to work. But even then, that version of Windows 10, that build specifically, is kind of outdated and deprecated, and therefore you could not really do much unless if I download Linux or attempt to. So why not? Let's go to the next stage, which is talk about the rise and fall of Windows RT. At CES 2011, Windows RT was announced, and it promised to provide support for the SoC implementations based on the ARM architecture, with Steven Sinofsky, the former Windows Division president, calling it Windows on ARM, aka WOA, as its code name. And the prototypes ran on Qualcomm Snapdragon Texas Instrument OMAP and NVIDIA Tegra 2 chips. It also featured a working version of IE9 with DirectX. WOA devices would use UEFI firmware and have a TPM, which is actually a trusted platform module to support device encryption. And Windows RT devices are also required to have UEFI secure boot enabled at all times, which proved to be a disadvantage as we would discuss later. Windows RT was slated to be the ARM equivalent Windows 8, but unfortunately, unlike Windows 8, it did not have any support for x86 or x64 applications. That meant you cannot install Chrome, Steam, or Photoshop. Instead, due to the fact it could only support ARM apps, you can only download apps from the Microsoft Store, which has been offline as of 2024. Ironically, Windows Media Player was also axed in favor of Xbox Music. The reason for all of this was to provide a more reliable experience on Windows RT. Ironically, you cannot download the Google Play Store, and compared to Apple's App Store, the Windows Store was incredibly limited and it was a cesspool for rubbish apps such as Girls in Bikini, etc. However, some titles of Minion Rush, Asphalt, Temple Run, etc. were included in this store in subsequent years. They also went to claim that existing applications are not optimized for reliability and energy efficiency of the ARM architecture. Consequently, the lack of backwards compatibility would prevent malware from entering the OS, but even then, Windows only checked the binaries, so there could be malware on some app on the Windows Store. Luckily, Windows Defender is included on this SKU. Some Microsoft employees did defend the decision, including Julie Lawson-Green, who stated that Windows RT was ultimately designed to provide, and I quote, a closed turnkey user experience, where it does not have the flexibility of Windows but has the power of Office and then all the new style applications. So it could give it to your kids and he's not going to load it up with a bunch of toolbars accidentally out of Internet Explorer and then come to you later and say, why am I getting all these pop-ups? It just isn't capable of doing that by design. Not only did Windows RT include the touch-based Metro UI, it also included the Windows Desktop. However, the Windows Desktop is kind of limited and would only support first-party apps and Microsoft Office. On April the 16th, 2012, Microsoft announced that Windows RT will be the same as Windows on ARM, and even though Microsoft did not explicitly indicate the naming scheme, people speculate that it referred to the Windows RT architecture. Microsoft Store staff members were given an average of 15 hours of training prior to the launch of two operating systems, and on the 26th of October 2012, Windows 8 and Windows RT were both released to the general public. Windows 8.1 was released on the 17th of October 2013, and it brought a whole slew of improvements, including the return of the start button and more fixes. However, due to the lack of support for x86 and x64 applications, as well as the lack of Windows Media Player in favor of Xbox Music, even though hundreds of thousands or even millions bought these Surface RT devices for around $500, which is as much as an iPad or even a fully fledged Windows laptop, many of them returned it after finding out it doesn't run their favorite apps. Even though some reviewers praised it for offering PC amenities as a mobile operating system, it was also panned for its slow launch times compared to the iPad 4 and spotty support for printers. What's worse than the slow application launch times was that some reviewers such as Peter Bright of Ars Technica even lambasted the Surface RT for having no clear purpose, due to the fact the advantage of ARM has somehow diminished and that people could have purchased Office 2013 themselves instead of bought the Surface RT to get the full app suite. Due to this, as well as the first impressions done by customers, the price for the Dell XPS 10 has axed from $450 to $300 just 6 months after going on sale. The Surface RT's price was axed worldwide by 30%, with the US price plummeting from $500 to $350 in July of 2013, and Microsoft began offering free covers for the Surface RT in some territories as a limited time promotion. Also, Microsoft reported a $900 million loss, which is more than $1 billion adjusted for inflation due to the lackluster sales. Ironically, the Surface did regain some market share due to the price cuts, but not enough to alleviate the viability of the Surface. Due to the fact there were so many unsold Windows RT devices, Microsoft was so desperate that according to some reports, they gave each employee a free Surface RT tablet. Now let's return to the UEFI secure boot thing, and let me explain why requiring the UEFI secure boot to be permanently enabled was detrimental. Well, as you can see, with UEFI secure boot enabled, it prevented the ability of running alternative OSs. So if you want to run Android or Linux or even iOS, which is actually closed source, you can't do it. You can only run Windows RT, and given the limited app selection on the Windows Store, it meant the Surface RT was incredibly limited coupled in with the lack of customizability, and it made the Surface RT look like a brick by the time Windows RT 8.1 was unsupported last year. Then in November of 2013, speaking about Windows RT at the UBS Global Technology Conference, Julie Lawson-Green stated that Microsoft is not going to have 3 mobile operating systems. After this, in 2014, Microsoft announced its Universal Windows App Platforms, which allow developers to create apps that will work on an ARM-based Windows OS, Windows Phone, and the Xbox. And the initiative for Windows 10 is to provide compatibility for both ARM and x86 and x64. Due to all of this, in 2015, Satya Nadella axed development for Windows RT, and Microsoft lost an estimated $900 million from this venture, which is not as disastrous as Windows Phone, as Windows Phone lost $7.2 billion. One of the most egregious failures from Microsoft. Windows RT devices would not see an update of Windows 10 except for build 15.035 from 2017, which unofficially supported the Windows RT devices.